What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're excited that the preseason is over for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I tell you this all the time, but it is very important now because things are likely going to be happening at a very quick pace over the next 50 hours or so. I'm putting this video together at 1 p.m. Central Time on Sunday, August the 27th, and that is relevant because every single team in the NFL has to be down to 53 players, their initial 53-man roster, by 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, August 29th. There is going to be a flurry of activity between now and then. We'll, of course, have you covered all throughout the Blog on the Boys universe, but we are here today because, as I promised you on the last episode of the postgame here on the channel, it is time for my 53-man roster prediction. Look, I understand that everybody obviously has 53-man roster predictions across the internet. This one's mine, and if you hate it, hey. If you don't, well, hey as well. But like everybody, I have put together a 53-man roster prediction, and it's important to kind of assess what we've seen throughout training camp, what we've seen throughout the preseason, in an effort to kind of figure out the 53 players that are going to be on this Dallas Cowboys roster. But I mentioned this in telling you the deadline, and again, 4 p.m. Eastern Time is what we are talking about on Tuesday. Later that night, on Tuesday the 29th, we will have a live roundtable starting here on our YouTube channel, also on our Twitch channel, that will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, and we will discuss, we will analyze, we will break down the initial 53-man roster. And I keep saying that word. Remember that it is an initial 53-man roster. It's not going to undergo serious change after it has been obviously finalized, but there will be a few things, maybe 2 or 3 or 4, that the Cowboys kind of adjust. They put a player on injured reserve or whatever the case may be. They bring somebody back. The 53 players who the Cowboys have as their final 53-man roster on Tuesday will in all likelihood not be the 53 players that they're selecting their 46 active game day players from on September 10th when they visit the New York Football Giants. We're going to be having a lot of content, obviously, at blogontheboys.com, so make sure you check that out. One of the things we have going for you is our tracker. Every time there is a cut or a rumor about a cut, we have it available for you. So if you head to blogontheboys.com, you'll see it right there in the corner. It's a tracker. You can open the tab on your phone. You can just refresh it. We tell you the last time that we updated it so that you are constantly aware of where the Dallas Cowboys stand and how many cuts they have to go. So, all right. All that being said, you've got all the information, all the relevant information out of the way. Let's go ahead and get to it. And I will be writing about this as well. I will also be sharing this on my social profiles. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Reels at RJ Ochoa, or on TikTok at RJ.Ochoa. Let's begin. This is my offense. These are the players that I have chosen, who I believe will make the Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster on the offensive side of things. I think it's all fairly chalk. We start, of course, with the quarterback position. Dak Prescott leads the way. No shocker there. Cooper Rush, QB2 on this team. I know that they traded for Trey Lance, and that's the kind of really big new addition. If we had done this exercise a week ago, there would have been obviously no chance that we would have had Trey Lance. We would have never seen that coming. Nobody did see it coming. I know some people kind of forecasted that it would make some sense, but whatever. Anyway, Trey Lance is QB3 on this team. Best of luck to Will Grier. We're certainly rooting for him wherever he winds up. I think this is very obvious. Again, 3 quarterbacks on the roster: Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush, Trey Lance. And remember, I explained this in our emergency show that we did after the Trey Lance trade. You've probably heard a lot about the 3rd quarterback rule in the NFL this year, which is was ironically born out of necessity from the San Francisco 49ers, Trey Lance's former team. NFL teams, if they have 3 quarterbacks on their active roster, their 53-man roster, and obviously the Cowboys will. If you don't know, every team has 53 players on their roster, but they can only suit up 46 on game day. That's why every game day there's the inactives, the players who are not active, who are not dressing up, obviously. So there now is allowed a 3rd emergency quarterback who you do not have to count on your 46-man active game day roster, that if your starting quarterbacks go down due to injury, can come into the game. So you don't have to dress a 3rd quarterback as part of your 46 and count it that way. You do still get the benefit, though, of being able to use him if things obviously get to that hypothetical emergency. So that will probably, in all likelihood, be the ceiling for Trey Lance this year. From the running back perspective, I think this is maybe the first point of contention for some people. Tony Pollard, obviously, very chalked. Rico Dowdle really kind of earned that solid RB2 role. Deuce Vaughn, I wouldn't categorize as RB2. I think he has his own kind of specialized and defined role. If you want to call him like RBX, I think that's fine. But so Deuce Vaughn clearly on the team. Those top 3, I think any 53-man roster prediction you look at, and we have several at our site, those are all around. It's that fourth spot that I think is a little bit different for some people. Do they have Malik Davis? I do not. That pains me greatly. It was very difficult to leave him off. I really like what Hunter Lipke offers. Obviously, Saturday night was awesome. But again, I think that we knew what he offered even before Saturday night. Everyone has been so concerned about Zeke Elliott and his departure and the lack of a goal line option, whatever the case may be. And while I would offer that Lipke offers that, I don't want to minimize his potential and say he's just this goal line short yardage dude. He can do a lot of things. And so I think he would be a great asset for the Cowboys to have. But because of that, I had to go shy at tight end. If you look over to the right, I only went with Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, and Peyton Hendershot. Sean McEwen is somebody who I think we're all fans of and has been around for a little while now, but I would rather carry Hunter Lipke. I think he offers more in the overall sense than Sean does. Again, a very difficult, line of decisions that we're facing here and putting together a 53-man roster. If you look up above tight ends, wide receivers, I think there might be some pushback here from some people, but talking about this on our post-game show, I think this is the direction that most Cowboys fans are leaning in. Very, very, very common. I've used the word chalk several times here. A lot of these things are. That's how we talk about, there aren't truly 53 spots available. We're coming, the brass tacks of it all is that there are maybe 5 to 7 roster spots that are truly available in a given year for the Cowboys or any NFL team for that matter. But CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, Jalen Tolbert, very easily your top 4 wide receivers. Kevontae Turpin has that 5th role. Obviously, your returner. We all want to see him involved on offense, though. And that 6th spot is where the real question is. I have gone with Jalen Brooks. Simi Fehoko, I think we've just seen enough at this point to be able to make this decision. I'd rather have Jalen Brooks on that rookie 7th-round contract. I think at a time we thought Jalen Moreno-Cropper might pop up here. I think he's a practice squad name. Dennis Houston has had his moment, obviously. Dontario Drummond, I know, has his fans as well. But Jalen Brooks is the name that makes the most sense for me as my 6th wide receiver. So if you look over along the offensive line, before we go through the names, you will note that there is no Chuma Edoga. This is where it's difficult to kind of predict the 53-man roster. So I think it's possible, and I know a lot of people share this opinion, that the Cowboys maybe put Chuma on injured reserve to start the season. He's not on the PUP list currently like Jordan Lewis. We'll talk about that when we get to the defense in a moment. In order for a player to be put on injured reserve and therefore be able to be brought back during the season, they have to be part of the initial 53-man roster. That's what happened last year with Michael Gallup. We've seen that a number of times with a number of different players, not just with the Cowboys, but every team in the NFL. So while I don't have Chuma on this list, it's my contention, or my thought at least, that the Cowboys will initially carry him. That's where we talked about that word initial at the top of this video. And after 24 hours, they'll put him on injured reserve. They'll bring somebody back. Maybe it's a CJ Goodwin or somebody who they cut momentarily and then bring back after they're able to place Chuma Edoga on injured reserve. So I don't have him here as a part of my 10 offensive linemen, but these are my players. I've got Tyron Smith. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. Nobody is projecting anything wild or anything crazy. You got Tyron Smith, Tyler Smith, Tyler Biotish, Zach Martin, Terrence Steele. Those are your starting 5 offensive linemen. Remember, by the way, when we were concerned that the Cowboys were going to, do something weird with Tyron and Tyler? Like, that feels like a long time ago, but thankfully that never wound up being a problem. My reserves, I've got Awesome Richards, rookie this year, I think has more than earned his spot, but it never felt likely that the Cowboys were going to move on, just because they generally do give their draft picks a chance to kind of thrive in the NFL, which is also a reason I think it makes sense that Jalen Brooks would make the roster. Josh Ball, I know that one's a bit of a question mark, but I think he's really shown a lot as an interior offensive lineman, and you can never have enough. The Cowboys have invested a little bit at this point in terms of time. I have a hard time seeing them wanting to completely and totally give up there. Plus, they don't have a lot of options, if we're being honest with ourselves. Maybe he is a candidate to be moved on from, if I'm right, if Chuma is placed on injured reserve when he ultimately comes back. So maybe it's a temporary sort of thing. But Josh Ball's on my list nonetheless. Matt Waletzko, Matt Farniok, and I do have TJ Bass making it. I know that will make the internet very happy. I think this is pretty fair from top to bottom. This offers, some legitimate depth. I would challenge you to find an NFL team that feels really great about their depth situation along the offensive line. But that's my group. I've got 10 names as far as offensive linemen are concerned. You can never have enough. We have certainly seen that over the last few years with the Dallas Cowboys. So, okay, that's my offense. Let's take I'm going to take a break. We're not going anywhere, but let's just kind of take a moment to reflect, kind of sit, let it simmer, let it marinate, and take a deep breath because we're about to go on to the defensive side of the ball. There were some difficult decisions to make there. Like I said, I'm going to be writing about this as well. And yeah, so okay, cool. Let's do it. This is my defense on my 53-man roster for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't have Micah Parsons listed at defensive end. I know we could do that, but I stuck with putting Micah Parsons in the linebacker group, so forgive me for that. I've got DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, Sam Williams, and Dante Fowler Jr. Classify Isaiah Land however you want. I've got him making it to the practice squad. I know that upsets a lot of people, so my apologies there. But that makes sense to me because, again, Micah Parsons is technically a part of that group. So you've got 5 pass rushers that you feel very, very good about. I know some people think that Dante Fowler might not make it, but for my 2 cents, he does. Defensive tackles, we're going to go left to right here instead of top to bottom, whatever. Defensive tackles, Mozzie Smith, Jonathan Hankins, Osa Odigizua has been really great throughout the preseason. Super excited to see what he can do, obviously, this year as well. Junior Fehoko and Chauncey Golston. It's tough to see Neville Gallimore moved on from Quinton Bohanna, but again, you can only carry so many players, and some decisions are very difficult, and I think this is one of them. Neville Gallimore has been around for a little while now, obviously, but he's entering the final year of that rookie contract. So now, if you're the Cowboys and you are going to bail, now is the time that it makes the most sense to do so. You're probably not looking at a comp pick for him, anything like that in 2000, and that would be 25 if he does walk in free agency and get a nice contract. At the linebacker position, again, I do have Micah Parsons, although he probably doesn't really he doesn't really play the position. So my kind of true linebackers that I have for the Cowboys, I've got Leighton Vander Esch, Damone Clark, and Devin Harper. Now I will offer, as my dog Bear chimes in. By the way, I don't know that I told the audience on our live show on Saturday night. Our new puppy, we actually renamed her to Honey. So we have Bear and Honey. So yeah, I know you can say all the cute things you want. But anyway, that's Bear. Honey is off somewhere else with my wife right now. Anyway, Leighton Vander Esch, Damone Clark, Devin Harper, the only kind of true linebackers that we have on the Dallas Cowboys. And if I'm being honest with you, I know I gave a stock up to Jabril Cox and to Devin Harper on our postgame show. I thought Jabril Cox would make this team, but I will say that I have been swayed by the opinion of Michael Gelkin, who covers the Dallas Cowboys on an excellent level at the Dallas Morning News. Gelkin wrote on Saturday night, shortly following the game, that Kelvin Joseph and Jabril Cox were both probably not going to make this team. So I'm willing to trust, certainly, the opinion of Michael Gelkin in that sense. I understand that Jabril Cox has been disappointing. And as I kind of, broke this down in my mind, I thought, well, what are you going to do, Cowboys? You're really kind of down a linebacker in light of the DeMarvion Overshown injury. But then I realized, the Cowboys, I mean, that's where J-Ron Kearse comes in. That's where Marquise Bell comes in. And so maybe that's something they feel more comfortable in. But my initial instinct was to leave Jabril Cox on here, but I took him off, because of that. So Jabril Cox just kind of misses out for me. You can see that we have an asterisk on the cornerback position. And in a similar sense to Chuma Edoga, the reason for that, so our 5 players here are Trayvon Diggs, Stephon Gilmore, Deron Bland, Eric Scott Jr., and Nahshon Wright. I mentioned that Gelkin noted that Kelvin Joseph might not make this team. I would be stunned by that. I'm certainly not doubting Gelkin, but I thought Kelvin Joseph really played well and embraced the idea of playing nickel, of playing special teams. You can never have enough bodies here. But the reason this asterisk is here is because you do not see Jordan Lewis's name. Now, this is a different situation than Chuma Edoga because Jordan Lewis is currently actively at this moment in time on the physically unable to perform list, aka the PUP list. So if he is not activated from that list prior to the assembly of the 53-man roster, so at some point in the next 50 hours, then he has to begin the season on the PUP list. That's what happens. And if you begin the season on the PUP list, you have to miss the first 4 games of the year. Those are the NFL rules. And so it is possible that the Cowboys, before they finalize their 53-man roster, activate Jordan Lewis from the PUP list and therefore carry him on their obviously actual 53-man roster. So that is kind of a switch that could be flipped at any moment, but that is why Jordan Lewis is not on my list at the time, because in this moment, I have Jordan Lewis in my hypothetical 53-man roster on the PUP list. But again, I'm kind of stunned that Nahshon Wright would make it over Kelvin Joseph, but Cowboys, they've earned the benefit of the doubt in that sense. So we'll move on. At safety, this is kind of a linebacker part 2 in some respects, as mentioned. Donovan Wilson, it's kind of strange how long ago that Donovan Wilson injury was, right? Like, it feels like forever ago, and so much has happened. Jaron Curse got his money guaranteed. Malik Hooker got a brand new extension with the Cowboys. They're both obviously on the list. Izzy Mukwamo, we have lined up as a safety, and maybe that's part of the reason the Cowboys do feel comfortable moving on from Kelvin Joseph is they have another nickel option in Izzy. And Marquise Bell, again, is kind of that thumper, that linebacker. The Cowboys, it was reported last week, did note that Marquise Bell is going to be playing some more linebackers. That does kind of give them that flexibility with Jabril Cox, as mentioned. So I've got 5 safeties in name. Again, you could get kind of funny with some of these players and where we have them slotted positionally. Micah Parsons, Marquise Bell, Izzy Mukwamo, as mentioned. Finally, though, to tie a bow on everything, we have 4 specialists. Brandon Aubrey, who I've believed in a little bit, and it was kind of nice, certainly on Saturday night, to see him have some success. Brian Anger, the team's punter, we'll see if he gives up number 5 for Trey Lance. Trent Sieg, the Cowboys' new long snapper, and we have put CJ Goodwin here in the specialist category. I know a lot of people thought that CJ might lose his spot this year, but it seems like the Cowboys are comfortable rolling with that 4th extra specialist. CJ Goodwin certainly offers a lot there, but that is my 53-man roster. Those are the players that I see making it initially for the Cowboys. Again, as mentioned, you've got some wonky little details that could be flipped one way or another, depending on what happens with Jordan Lewis and Chuma Edoga, as mentioned, which is why, again, I want to reiterate, I'm putting this video together. It's almost 1:30 Central Time now on Sunday, August 27th. So please be aware of that. If you stumble upon this video at some point later and something happened, you can call me an idiot for a lot of things fairly. But if that happens, hey, I can't predict the future, except I just did and told you who is going to make the 53-man roster for the Dallas Cowboys. Once again, the deadline, 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, August the 29th. We will be live here on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel and our Twitch channel that night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time. Myself and 3 other staffers breaking down the roster, kind of discussing what's going to come next, right? Something like that Jordan Lewis situation or Chuma Edoga talking about, well, this is this way now, but it's going to be this way tomorrow or, Thursday, whatever the case may be. And after that, things get super duper for real. The Cowboys, after Tuesday and after these tiny little extracurricular things are processed, it's all about getting ready for the New York Giants and September 10th. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Once again, remember to visit bloggingtheboys.com for our 53-man roster tracker, as well as all sorts of discussion, analysis, whatever you're in the mood to see. I can promise you can find it over at BTB. If you like what I do, my name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Threads at RJ Ochoa or on TikTok at rj.ochoa. If you want to feel like it's 2003, you can send me an email, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com, or you can leave a comment down below and we'll do our best to get to those. I'm RJ Ochoa. Later on this week, today is Sunday, we'll have anything that requires any kind of breaking news. We'll, of course, get it up for you here on the channel, either by way of a long form video or some form of short. Like I said, that's where Twitter and Instagram and TikTok are great places to follow me on, because we'll, of course, have everything available for you that we can. On Tuesday, we're going to have our roundtable, maybe something special on Tuesday as well. We'll see how that goes. On Wednesday, the latest episode of the NFC East mixtape. I know we were off last week, but I promised that was a one-time thing. And on Thursday, I told you this on the postgame show, we are currently scheduled, subject to change as always, to have the NFL's all-time leading rusher join us in Emmitt Smith. So very excited about that. Very excited for the preseason to be done. Very excited to start talking about an actual football game that matters and that has consequences. And so thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. We'll see you next time.